Hello there, I'm Lonely Gimmick. I'm going to give you a quick rundown, a breakdown, shall we say, of Blue Tick Influencer. I'm going to show you all the instruments in it, show you how I've done it, and everything like that, and give you an explanation of all the lyrics, because it seems to be everyone's favourite at the moment. So the first thing I started with this track, I actually started with a bass line. It's this bass line. I've isolated it here, and yeah, I had this bass line, and I really liked it, and I needed something to go with it. So this is how the song started. I don't know if I can. Yeah, so that's how the song started. That's like I had that riff on the bass, so I was like, this is a great bass line. I love that. I was in a band at the time. I was still in music uni when I came up with that. I was in my last year, and I just really liked that bass line, and I was just playing a lot of guitar. That's what you've got to do when you're like writing music, is you just always got to be writing, always got to be playing. Something I'm not doing at the moment, unfortunately, because of my I'm working way too much. But yeah, if you're always writing, you'll come up with some great stuff, and you'll find something. And that's I found something when I wrote that bass line. I was like, this is something. This needs to be something. So it started with that. It's got to me, it reminded me a bit of kind of Stand By Me. It reminded me of some doo-wop kind of stuff. And I was like, this is a great. Yeah, this song kind of didn't end up being doo-wop, and I didn't really want it to be doo-wop. But I was listening to a lot of like old 50s and 60s kind of music that kind of had that swing, and so that's kind of influenced me to write that bass line. So as mentioned, I was listening to some doo-wop stuff, obviously like Stand By Me, and I can't really remember what else, but I was also listening to some old, the new kind of indie bands that kind of have that old 50s rock and roll sound, so like Tijuana Panthers, Redheaded Girl at the time. I discovered Tijuana Panthers, listening to that. Also, I was listening to the Growlers, although there's a bit of controversy about the Growlers these days, so can't really mention them anymore. I've been kind of cancelled for good reasons, to be honest. And also, what else was I listening to? I was listening to the Night Beats. If anyone knows who the Night Beats are, they're great. Like, they have that old rock and roll kind of sound. So I was listening to kind of all that, and I wanted to do some classic rock and roll. So after I had that bass line, and before I even recorded it, I had that bass line, and I was like, okay, so when I write, you need to make a foundation for your songs. So I had this bass line, and I was like, okay, now I've got a bass line, I need a beat, I need a drum. So that's always what I try and do. I always try and get like a bass line backbeat going first. So the drums and bass are the most important things in a song, in my opinion, because they carry the song. And so I was like, I need drums, and I had these drums from a previous band's recording. I'm not sure how happy they were with me using them, but it was, I helped pay for the studio time. So I thought, fuck it, I'm going to reuse these drums. And so I got these drums from the old band, and I took them from the recording, and I edited them, and I cut them up, and I sped them up. So I've changed like the rhythm of them, and I've changed a lot about them, but it was a really good drum recording. And I'll just solo those for you now. I haven't got it track stacked. So these are the drums that I found them, and I edited them. I was like, this is going to be a good beat for that bass line. So I did the drums. First thing I did in the recording, apart from writing the bass line, I didn't record it yet. I put the drums in because I needed a backbeat, and I played along to the drums. And I thought, yeah, this will work. So these are the drums. Do 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 do. Da 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 ba. But they're great drums, great recording. I kind of use what I can, I find things and I use what I can, because you gotta just use what you can, man. You can't. I'm not a rich man. I can't always be affording to hire drummers, so I gotta find drums any place I can. So once I had the bass and drums, I had to try and come up with something else to kind of fit into the song. And not gonna lie, it was really hard to try and after I had bass and drums, the first instrument I like to write on is guitar. Guitar is like my main instrument. So I had to try and come up with something, and so I just would loop the bass and the drums and I'd try and play, and it took me weeks because I couldn't just find any. For some reason, I just couldn't. I had writer's block at the time. I just couldn't find anything that meshed with all of that, and I just kept trying and playing. And I was like, no, no, and eventually, randomly, one day, it just came out, and it was yeah, this riff just came out, and I was like, that's it. That's all I needed. So it was this riff.
Look at the camera.
And the thing about this riff is it's got a lot of gaps in it. It's not a complicated riff, it's quite simple. It's more or less just kind of like a scale you're playing. But it just fits, and it has lots of spaces, because music's about the notes you don't play. That's what like a music teacher would tell you. It's a generic thing, but like music doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be crazy solos, it's all about what it just has to fit together like a jigsaw when you're writing a song. And that riff for me just kind of fit together with the rest of it like a jigsaw. So the next thing I added to the song was a glockenspiel. And it looks like it's MIDI, but actually what it was is my friend lent me his glockenspiel, and I went through every note on that glockenspiel. I spent like a couple of days, and I recorded every note with a microphone. So, because I had to return the glockenspiel eventually, I couldn't just have it and use it to record. So I programmed, I recorded every single note on that glockenspiel separately, and then I put it into a sampler. So now I like to make my own samples. So that is my glockenspiel. That is like Lonely Gimmick. No other glockenspiel will sound exactly like that, because those are my own samples. So I made this glockenspiel MIDI. That's not like a preset or anything. I don't like to use presets. I like to make my own sounds, and that. There's a glockenspiel I borrowed from a friend. I recorded that glockenspiel, and now I have that glockenspiel, and I use it for a lot of other songs and background. And so I was like, I needed to use this glockenspiel, so I put in this glockenspiel. I had my sampler, and then I used my little MIDI keyboard, and I wrote this little melody. I like it because it sounds a lot like it sounds cheap, like it sounds like a toy. But those cheap kind of sounds, like you don't need expensive equipment to sound. It doesn't need to sound professional because it's got a vibe, you know. Like, that's what I go for. So if you hear it in context with the song, like it's subtle there, but it's there. So just a little layering like that. That was the next thing I did in the song. So the next thing I did, I believe, I can't remember, this was a while ago to be honest, but the next thing I did was the vocals. I was trying to come up with, the whole time I'm trying to write lyrics and find vocal melodies, but I always like to do, if you've noticed in my music, I like to do a lot of held notes and oohs and ahs and things in the background to kind of layer the sound. So I did these vocals. So that's the high one, and then I always like to layer it with harmonies because I like to. It's a lot of fun to layer your own voice loads of time. And I believe this is the low one. That one's, no, that's not the low one. Where is it? This one. So that, I believe, is just an octave. They're just octave differences. So this is a high one, this is a low one, and you put them together and you get. So yeah, do some harmonies, bro. So another thing I did was I had some synth. I don't think the synth actually made it into the final cut. This is my mix of the song, but I actually got this song I got mixed by my other friend, and he kind of put the keyboard's quite low in the mix, so you can't actually hear this, but on my version you can hear these kind of synths, but I think he edited them a bit. But these are my synths, and they should be Alchemy. Yeah, as I said in another video, I like to use Alchemy as one of the best Logic synths. Comes with Logic. You should really mess around with what Logic comes with, because it's got so many great things. You don't need to spend money on plugins. Seriously, like, everything's here for you. Make your own sounds. You don't need much to make good music. That's my motto anyway. People might hate my music and disagree with me, so. But this is the synth. It's really low in the background, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just a bass synth, and you can't really hear it in the recording because you kind of mix the bass low, but it's all about layering. And then I got another synth on top. It's just like an organ sound with a bit of... You can't really hear it in the recording, but it's barely there. Yeah, but you can't even hear the synths, but they're there and they go along with the the vocal melody, but it's all about layering, man. It's all about layering. You get me? It's all about layering, bruv. Right. Yeah, so that's what I did for the intro and everything like that. So, apart from I wrote all the guitar for the song except for this bit right here. I was trying to find some more. This song took me a while to write for the guitar for. It was really, for some reason, it was really annoying to write guitar for. I don't know why. It just wasn't gelling with me. And I had a friend called Alejandro, and he's an amazing guitarist. And I got him over one day, and I was like, I'm struggling to write some more. I need a few more guitar riffs and stuff in this song to kind of bring it together, because I had the chords and I had like the main riff. But then it just needed it needs little bits, you know, like it needs a bit of like spice. And like all these little guitar riffs are spice. So all these layering, it's all about spice and stuff like that, right? So I got him over, and he couldn't even he was struggling to write, and he's an amazing guitarist, much better than me. And he was struggling to write some riffs, and then we just sat there, you know, I think he smoked a bit of weed, I don't smoke weed. And we just hung out all day. I had a beer or two. And we just hung out all day, and we just looped the bass line and my guitar line, and he came up with these other riffs over the top. And what he did for this actually is really interesting. At one point, he got a lighter, and he put the guitar flat, and he kind of used it as like a bottleneck kind of sound. And he bent the strings and played with the lighter as a bottleneck, and it made this great sound, what you'll hear here. That's him sliding that's a lighter up the neck. You can't really replicate it live, but he's using a lighter to do that. You gonna pass me a guitar? I don't have a lighter.
Maybe use a pen or something.
Yeah. So this is what he did. He was messing around with it, and he was just, because we couldn't come up with anything for some reason. It was like none of our riffs or anything like that was working. And eventually he just got the guitar. I don't know how he came up with this idea. It's what you do. You got to sit down and come up with stuff. But imagine this as a lighter. So he did he did something like this. This is how he recorded the riff. It was like I don't know what he played. I can't play it myself. But he did something like that. So that there is that. And I layered that with some bends. He did some bends, like here. This is like the shape he was. I don't know what he was playing. I don't know what. To this day, I don't know how to play that riff. I don't even know if he remembers how to play that riff. But it was like he did some bends across the neck and held them, and we had some chorus pedals and stuff. But then he did some stuff like that over the top, and that's how I got this sound. So this is another very important thing about my music that I like to use a lot too, it's you need to get clap. You need to get the clap and go to your doctor and ask about the clap. Because you need to put claps in your songs. Because claps are amazing. They use them in everything. Everyone likes a good hand clap. So I always put some hand claps in places. So you'll see here. Yeah! You see that? Get the clap. I got the clap. Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay, so another little thing I came up with my friend Alejandro, is we were trying to write riffs for it, and once you're with someone, sometimes the creative juices, you start flowing those juices out of each other, He shows you his juice, I show him my juice, and we just like meld like that. So this Alejandro really helped me with some of the riffs in this, because I got writer's block, and I got him over, and so this riff at the end you'll hear is I watched him play some riffs, and he was kind of noodling around, but it wasn't quite like, I was like, yeah, that's good, but like it needs to be, it needs to be consistent, it needs to have a riff, like it needs to have a structure. So I watched the notes he was playing, and I took the guitar and I had a little go, and I got this riff from it for the end. Oh, my mouse isn't in the right place. I got this one. Whammy bar. Super simple. That's it. Just. That's it. Whammy bar. That's all you need, man. Like, you don't need like Jimi Hendrix. You just need. That's it. And that made the song amazing. Yeah, so once I had all this, the hardest thing for me to write, to be honest, is I can write lyrics, it's just vocals, man. Singing. Singing is the bane of my music career, because I like to sing, but it takes me a long time to come up with vocal melodies sometimes. I don't know, I'm getting better at it the more I practice. Again, it's all just about practice. But I had these lyrics, and I sung these. I recorded this actually with a Focusrite. I didn't use an Apollo Twin. I used a little red Focusrite. And so I had these vocals, and I just used a dynamic microphone I've shown you before, and I came up with this.
Can you walk between the raindrops? If not, can you make the sound of the city stop? I guess not. You just bury your head in your Instagram.
Yeah, there's a lot of breaths in there, and it's rough, but it sounds good to me. It's very, it's not an amazing, it's not some Shania Twain or anything, but that's what I like, man. It's indie, and so yeah, it's quite soft, kind of soft way, So yeah, that's what I did. And those lyrics are about, I was living in London at the time, and everything was just moving too fast, because city life moves a bit too fast. Sometimes you got to be a country mouse and not a city mouse. So I wrote these lyrics about just how some people, they think they're amazing, but they're not really amazing because they're not superheroes, and they can't do a lot, they can't stop the problems that people face. So the next lyrics are these.
Smoke a mirror, don't bring no tears. What are you got left? Dying dreams to conquer your fears.
Smoke a mirror, don't bring no tears. Something like that. I like that lyric a lot, because I'd learned that you have to kind of, which I don't really agree with, but you've got to fake it, you've got to fake it till you make it, and that's kind of like what, I feel like a lot of people on the internet do, is we fake a lot of things in our lives, and we make ourselves seem happier than we really are. For for no reason really. But smoke and mirror don't bring no tears, as everyone fakes it. Everyone's lying about how good their life is. Well, some people aren't, but everyone's, you know, especially Instagram influencers and things. It's kind of that mentality. Look how great my life is. But it's all smoke and mirrors. Your life, you've got all these problems, yet we lie about it, you know. But in the end of the day, everyone does it, so it's not really that big of a problem. So it's also kind of a positive message. All you've got left is your dreams to conquer your fears. Because in the end of the day, all you've got, you know, you've got hopes and dreams, and you've got to chase those hopes and dreams. So if you're gonna lie about your life, you're trying to achieve something, you know, in the end of the day, it's not that bad.
Just give them money, they don't care. Let the working bees make that honey.
Yeah, so that was, it's kind of like, because I work a lot, like I've worked my whole life, I try and do music on the side. But I was working at a gym at the time, and I was just, you see people who just, they don't work, they just, I don't know, some people just have this really easy life where they don't have to work, or maybe they worked really hard at one point and now they don't, but you know, it's a struggle every day for most people. And so there's a lot of people out there that they don't work, but they just somehow seem to have all this money. And it doesn't make any sense to me. So that lyric's kind of about that. And all these Instagram influencers are the same, like, they live these luxurious lifestyles, who's paying their rent is what I want to know. And that kind of is about that. You know, let the worker bees, like myself and like some of other people, we are worker bees, you know, and we have to work hard and we have to make the things for this society. But there's lots of people who don't want to work and they just get free money somehow. So that's kind of what that's about.
Blue tick influencer, your abstract beauty is as empty as your island of love.
Yeah, so this is kind of, this lyric kind of what made me realise this song is actually about, because a lot of times I'll write lyrics and like it'll have a general idea and kind of general feeling, and then I was at work, I was working in a pub actually when I wrote that lyric, and someone was talking about this girl I worked with. She was trying to be an actress, but she had lots of followers, she was quite attractive, and she had a blue tick on her Instagram, which I don't really care about that sort of stuff, but it was, and we were talking about blue tick, we were talking about influencers and the blue tick, and I went, that is the perfect meaning for this song, that's the perfect, like, mentality for, you know, what I'm kind of singing about here, about life and how hard it is and how you have to struggle, and then there's these people that they just cruise through life and they're Instagram influencers, you know, and it's kind of like an insult to that, and she was saying, and I was like, that's it. And I also mentioned Love Island, because a lot of Love Island people are just, they're Instagram influencers, you know? They're the blue tick influencers, and they're just on these shows, and if you like that sort of thing, that's okay. You know, I don't personally like it. I remember I had an ex-girlfriend, and she used to really like the show. So, and it just seems so abstract and just so shallow to me. So, that's why I wrote that lyric. It just, you know, it's abstract beauty, because everyone's beautiful. Just because you've got some, you know, I just don't like it. I don't like the way they look. I don't like, you know, how they think they're amazing. Or maybe they're really insecure. I don't know. But it's abstract beauty of Love Island, and I needed to put Love Island in there. Yeah, so the last lyric I wrote.
They don't wanna learn, they don't wanna work hard. They wanna reap rewards without even having to start.
Yeah, I really liked the way I redid this take loads of times, because I wanted it to have some emphasis. And I try to get that, like, you know, like Kurt Cobain has like I can't do it. I can't do it Kurt Cobain justice, but I really wanted to get that rough like scream in there to show the anger, and that's kind of what I did in that take. And I took a bunch of takes, and I messed up my throat doing that take, because that's what you got to do when you scream, and it's not singing properly. It's not what a singing teacher would teach you, but it sounds good. So I did that. And that lyric's actually based off a Kid Capici lyric. I was listening to a lot of Kid Capici, and they had something similar about, I think it's the Glitterati, and they're talking about, I can't remember exactly what lyric it was, but I got influenced by one of their lyrics, and that's why I wrote this lyric. And I like the rhyming schemes that Kid Capici had, so I used it in that. And they don't want to work hard, they don't want to try, they want to reap rewards. Yeah, definitely clear. They want to reap rewards. So it was a reap reward kind of line from Kid Capici, and I really liked it, so I included it there.
Go.
Hello there, I am Lonely Gimmick. I currently have a Kickstarter campaign running. Please go and donate so I can buy myself some sleeves. You can also get yourself a CD, a tape and a t-shirt. If I reach £2,000, I'll be able to release vinyl records of my album that is coming out. So please go donate. You can find the link in the description or somewhere around this video. Kickstarter.